Aditya will
Thank
take
you.
over.
So
Yes.
we are delighted to have you with us, ma'am. So hello, delegates. In today's session, first I will introduce you with our expert mentor, Miss Bano Haralu, ma'am. She is one of the most celebrated conservation journalists in India. She has previously worked with NDTV News Network and Doordarshan. The world witnessed her pioneering efforts in conserving the Amur falcon in the northeast of India. Falcon in the northeast of India, and she was also the editor of Eastern Mirror. We have all seen her documentary From Hunters to Protectors. Indeed, she is the face of conservation when it comes to birds. She was also awarded Nari Shakti Puraskar by the President of India in 2016. She was also given Wildlife Service Award in 2016. And I would like to inform you that ma'am is also recipient of the Chameli Devi Jain Award for Outstanding Media Persons. We are indeed honored to have Ms. Banu Haralu ma'am as our mentor for the Avifauna Conservation Commission under this Chhatra Paryavaran Sansad 2026. We welcome you ma'am, and we are excited and delighted to have you and get your experience shared with us, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Seems to be some slight technical issue at the end.
She is joining again, sir.
Also, she's joining again. She must be getting up with that PPT. She sent message?
Uh, so I think she's joining again. There is no message as such.
All right.
By the time our expert mentor join again, I am contacting her.
I'll give a call. I'll just give a call.
Sir is contacting with our mentor, and she's joining. In the meantime, so you all are delegates here. I am remembering line of said by Mr. Dushyant Kumar. He was a great poet. दुष्यंत कुमार को आप सब जानते होंगे. उनकी मुझे लाइन याद आ रही है just to motivate you before this session. He says, हो गई है पीर पर्वत सी पिघलनी चाहिए, इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए, और मेरे सीने में नहीं तो तेरे सीने में सही, हो कहीं भी आग लेकिन आग जलनी चाहिए. और अब सुनिएगा कि हंगामा, सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं, मेरी कोशिश है कि ये सूरत बदलनी चाहिए. तो इस छात्र पर्यावरण के संसद का जो ये प्रोजेक्ट है जिससे आप सब जुड़े हैं, तो हमारी यही कोशिश है कि ये सूरत बदलनी चाहिए और आपके अंदर वो आग लगनी चाहिए जिससे हम अपने एनवायरनमेंट को प्रोटेक्ट कर सकें, और एक जो कंजर्वेशन की, एनवायरनमेंट को बचाने की भावना वो आपके अंदर डेवलप हो सके.
So I've got contacted. I've been able to contact her. She says that there's an issue with network and she's just joining in a moment. Our recording secretaries have joined. Are you here, recording secretaries? I think Srishti is one of the recording secretaries. Be ready with your notepads, children, because you will be receiving some vital information during this session. Yes, madam is here.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Yes. I'm really sorry. So that's all Murphy's Law. When something has to go wrong, it will go wrong. But okay, thank you so much for inviting me to this Parliament of Students. I'm not sure how many talks all of you have heard before, but I have been tasked with talking to you about the legal task and the protection of birds. And I am not qualified so much to talk about the legality of aspects, but I think we all know that we live in a country where we have one of the most wonderful laws that govern by the Constitution the protection of every form of life, and also that includes the other species other than humans. And I think we need to be very proud of that fact. It is the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 that obviously covers all forms of life and also distinguishes between special status categories that are provided under Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, which is an international law. But when we talk about wildlife, we often just imagine animals and the big cats and the elephants and the big mammals which are found, and the oceans deep, the creatures that live in the deep. But very often we overlook the avian life, which is something which is, in fact, if around the time that everything came into existence on this earth, we will see that the deep sea creatures and the birds that fly in the air are probably the first creatures that were formed, created even before man was planted on this planet. So even they are probably much wiser than us in many ways. And I am here to share with you also a story that I was personally involved with in the conservation of the migratory Amur falcons. But before I get to the story of the falcons and the campaign that revolved around this spectacular, really spectacular little bird, little raptor that connects mountains, valleys, oceans, hills, continents, and equators. So this is a very special little raptor, and we will share more about that. But in this discussion, I want all of us to remember that laws are there. They are framed for us as citizens, as individuals, as humans, to guide us, to adhere to, and to contribute to the well-being of this planet, and which in turn also safeguards our own interests. And I'm sure you are getting to know and being more convinced of this fact in the series of talks you have already heard before me. Also, I want to say that besides the laws, the laws are what? Laws are made for people, and people need to understand and connect with these laws. And sometimes, in ignorance of the particular laws, some crimes are committed, some acts are committed. But more often than that, I think many of the laws, many of the acts rather, criminal acts that are committed are done knowingly, willfully, and also to gain something out of it monetarily. So there are many aspects of why the law as it stands is also broken. And it is our duty as citizens of this country to understand, to go behind such events or incidents, to know more as to why that happened. And then more often than not, you will find that people who are have been left or are on the periphery of decision making, or on the periphery, or under the right at the end of governance, or are left out of decision making, are often the ones who are breaking these laws. They do it because their own laws, every society, every community will have self-governing laws. And self-governing laws, again, have laws that are above them which could be the state law, the central law, the nation's law. In particular, I would say, like in the case of Nagaland, I don't know how many of you know about the history of Nagaland. It has a rather checkered political history, and this state is governed by a very special law, which is part of the art of the Constitution of India, which is Article 371A. Under Article 371A, the people of this state have the rights over their land and their resources. And it is almost in parallel with the laws of the country, but also within the state, their own laws which govern the land and the resources. So in a state like Nagaland, we cannot move, or we cannot act without the participation of the community. And communities, all village councils, have their own laws, their traditional and cultural laws that regulate and monitor the use of natural resources. But over the years, we are noticing that these traditional and customary laws are getting weaker because the governance at the village level also needs to be strengthened and improved, and the capacity building of leaders of villages also need to be improved, and they need to come at par with the laws and acts and actions and knowledge that is being shared at the state level, at the national level. We need to know what is happening regarding the protection of forests, the various acts that are there, and how such rules, such guidelines that are being framed, whether it's the Biodiversity Act, or it's the Forest Conservation Act, or it's even the Wildlife Protection Act, how it also covers, and how these villages, these communities, are also part and parcel of these laws. So for a long time, the Wildlife Protection Act was disregarded in the state of Nagaland as an act that was overruling what was constitutionally protected under Article 371A. But since the last 10, 15 years, this has been gradually changing, and the Wildlife Protection Act is being held up today as one of the acts that can be implemented and can also involve people who go against these acts. And in some cases, the Wildlife Protection Act has been used as an example to not punish, I would say, but to make an example of people who have mistreated or who have illegally hunted animals and even birds. For example, the hornbill. The hornbill is such an important species for Nagaland because it is culturally very, very relevant and very close to all the communities. There are 17, 18 major tribes in Nagaland, each speaking a different language. So you can imagine the mosaic of languages that we speak here in this very tiny little state, which is only 16,500 square kilometers. Having said that, without the participation of the community, which controls about 97% of the landscape of the entire territory of Nagaland, without the enhancement of conservation awareness, without the participation, cooperation, co-designing of conservation efforts, without the community, it is almost impossible to arrive that we can successfully say that Nagaland is a healthy state with great forest cover and with great rivers and safe mountains. It is not so. The picture is rather actually quite bleak. we do have a very good forest cover, but we have also been losing forest cover at an alarming rate, especially in the last decade. We have lost almost 800 square kilometers of over 12,500 forest cover area of the state, which is really great. Now, this is criminal in its just in the statistics also, because the Wildlife Protection Act is not just laws like, sections so and so, section so and so. No, it also includes the protection of the habitat of wildlife. So we create sanctuaries, we create reserves, we create national parks. Yes, we do all of that. But there are also forest areas that are within the control and within the use of communities. And so the case here today of the Amur falcon is, is a classic example of how, without the participation of the communities, conservation is half done or not done at least in Nagaland, and I can also say safely for most of the states in the northeast of India. Of course, the states like Assam have large national parks. They have very great many biosphere reserves. They have several national parks and also sanctuaries, and they contribute a lot to the conservation of species in this part of the world. So is Arunachal Pradesh, which is one of the largest states in India and also unique in its biodiversity. There too, there are over 100 tribes, but these tribes again are very small in population. So, a tribe can be as large as just even 300 people, 1,000 people, 2,000. But, they will have territories within them which are over 1,000 square kilometers, 2,000 square kilometers. The Bugun Leo Chikla, where that famous bird is found in the llama, protected in the llama camp. And there too you will find that it's just the Bugun tribe is only about 800 people, and they have like about 2,000 square kilometers. So just imagine how important the role of communities then become in this part of India, which is again houses three of the most iconic species of the country, starting with the rhino, and the hullock gibbon, and you also have, in addition to the various species of birds, you have the tiger as well, which are all found in this region, and many more other species. But to talk about the legal protection that is being provided to wildlife in the northeast of India, I would say, or I would think that we have some way to go, in the sense of even cases being reported or cases being registered, and communities stepping up to protect these species. And yes, there is a revival of community conservation efforts. But then again, these are again, like I said, governed by the village councils, the laws. So we have, like in villages, they would declare 6 months of no hunting, and then it would be 6 months of open hunting, which they would, which is because hunting has been a traditional practice. And so in my conservation work with my team here with the Wildlife Conservation Society India, we are currently working with about 26 villages on the fringes of the one and only national park in Nagaland, which is called the Intanki National Park. Many of you would not have heard of this park because despite its protection status for over 100 years, it was first declared a reserve forest in 1921 by the British administrators. Yet, in over 100 years of its protection as a special, very special place, because it is one of the last remaining lowland rainforests in this region, in Nagaland. And it is a very important corridor for animals from Kaziranga to migrate towards Myanmar. Yeah. So this park is directly south of the Kaziranga National Park. So I'm stressing this point because in our work for the last 4 years with communities on this stretch in this area, we find that every village is having a different structure, is having a different approach towards conservation, is having different methodologies, having different rules that govern their forest areas. And this area has also seen maximum burden, weight, assault of deforestation. Because there was, for over 20, 30 years, truckloads and logs of timber has been going out from here. In fact, there's an organization that recorded that for the last 50 years, they say, not less than 60 truckloads were going out every single day. So you can imagine what is the level of destruction that has been taking place right under the eyes of authorities. But because that awareness has not been awakened amongst communities, and the capacity, the ability for communities also to respond to what is happening around them has not also been taken into account, a lot of this destruction goes on. So our effort right now is to galvanize communities. And there is one very important fact in conservation, which I want to stress to the young students here, is the sense of ownership. Ownership of the environments that you're in. You may be living in a flat, you may be living in an apartment, you may be living in a colony, but what is your ownership to that place, to your environment? What sense of belonging do you have to the space around you? Anywhere. We travel all the time. We go to places. We live in different places to work, to study. What is our sense of belonging? After all, we are all living in one planet. So I want to stress this with the students here today, that your sense of belonging, your sense of ownership of the resources of this earth is extremely important for the future. And I would like now to share what we found with the Amur Falcon story, just to give you a little bit of background around this, the story of the Amur Falcon campaign. It's that in Nagaland, we always heard of this extreme level of hunting, which also means that this land is extremely blessed in many ways, because despite this really high level of extraction of natural resources, we still have so much, and we have also much more also to protect and conserve. But despite all this, what was happening was that many of the cases were not being reported. Many cases, many incidents were just being accepted as traditional, customary, and being excused and being allowed to take place without really understanding what is the impact that it is having around the environment. And now, the conservation of this migratory bird in 2012, 2013, it really peaked in 2014 when it went around the state, and it was also became a kind of accidentally, it became a mascot, a kind of a mascot for conservation. And communities then started their own conservation efforts around their own forest areas, and villagers began to conserve the areas where the raptor would be seen. And so also the same news that conservation of this raptor that was taking place in Nagaland, and this raptor was visiting, going to other places outside of Nagaland, birds know no boundaries, in Manipur, there too, the communities there also embrace the conservation. Then similarly, nearby Assam, in the Dima Hasao area, near the Haflong area, the Dimasas, there too, they also began to embrace the Amur falcon conservation. And similarly, even in Meghalaya, in a little area called Ribhoi district, which is on your way to Shillong from Guwahati, there too communities began to conserve. So um, when when there are possible success stories, good stories, positive stories that emerge from the field and that are shared with the communities, it also inspires. And it also, you don't aim to inspire other people, you just do what you need to do, and then the rest takes care of itself. But in this case with the Amur falcon, it was a big the story was big, because this was a case that had been going on for a number of years, and it was also associated with the construction of the dam in this area. Not that these birds were new to this place. They were always had been coming for centuries, as I will share with you in the PowerPoint presentation. So, Anshuman, sorry, Aditya, would you be sharing that, or will I go
Yes, ma'am.
forward?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sharing the
Okay.
PowerPoint.
So this is yeah, you can share it, and I'll just talk over it. So this campaign goes back about almost 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. But it still holds true, because this migratory raptor, which we knew so little about in this part of the world before this whole story broke out, is continues to be protected in its migratory passage annually. Next. So
Could
what you
you,
saw
could you
on
just
those
tell us
birds,
what is the stopover? Why is it the stopover point, and where do these birds come from, and where
yes,
do they go to, please?
just coming to that.
Okay.
So all those birds that you saw on that tree, it's this bird, the Amur falcon. So this is a male species. The next one. So they are birds. The next slide, please. Yeah. So these birds come all the way from Siberia, Mongolia, northern China, and they breed in the Amur region. And annually, they make an elliptical migrate. They take a migration route, which is about 22,000 kilometers. So they fly from Mongolia, northern Mongolia, Siberia, during when it starts like really getting cold over there. So they will be arriving here. No, just stay on that slide, please. Yeah, they will be arriving. They will leave the snow-clad area during early, just as the snow is settling in, around first week of October, and then they will fly down to the eastern Himalayas, like where Nagaland is, and this entire northeast region. So if you look at the route, the blue line between the mountains in the Amur region, down to Nagaland in India, across the Arabian Sea, and down to South Africa, you will find that the only pit stop that they have from their journey from Siberia is the Northeast. So they have spent their energy flying from that region with their little juveniles. So they come, they rest in Nagaland, which is that dark spot there you can see in the Northeast, around that area. And they will be here in phases, they come in phases. So for about 2 weeks per batch, and then they will be there like for about 1 month, 6 weeks or so, from October till mid-November, and then they exit through the western coast and they land on the eastern coast of Africa, and they go down to South Africa and they stay in South Africa. Like now, they'll be there now, till now. And then when it start getting too hot, they would have started to migrate back, starting to get cold in the southern equator. Southern hemisphere, they will fly back into their region, into the Amur area. So by now they will be comfortably back. It's August already. They will be comfortably back in Siberia, where the temperatures are just right for them. And then when it starts getting cold in around October or so, they will start to migrate towards Nagaland. Next slide. So this is the area they visit. This is the Doyang Reservoir in Wokha district of Nagaland. And here, this dam was not there before. So these birds were spread out across this particular region. And when my own parents, when they were young, they would often say that, oh, so apparently in that village, in Wokha, where the Lotha communities reside, the birds have come, because they say now that the skies are covered black with the arrival of these birds. And the news would travel up to, like, say, 100 kilometers up to Kohima. So people would know about these birds coming there. And that was the migratory route of these birds for centuries. Next. When we first arrived in this region, this is what we would see. This was the sight that would greet us around the area. All those black spots are all Amur falcons over the Doyang Reservoir. Next. So just a few more pictures. And they would rest on these high tension wires all across. But what we were not prepared was we heard about the scale of hunting, but not to this scale. So what was happening here was fishermen who would fish in the reservoir had begun to use their old fishing nets and put them high up, and then they would trap these birds. Next. And this is how these birds would be entangled and they would be removed from their nets. Next. And they would be sold, trapped. You can go on. And hunted. This is a form of very illegal hunting, mass hunting. Next. They would be brought home to the villages, and then extra ones would be sold off. Next. Children would also keep them as pets. Next. And they were being dressed and sold for meat. Next. So this became a very popular kind of extra income generation. So next, the smoked meat was for keeping the meat for longer, preservation, and also sending it out to greater distances if they could not send the live birds. And the dressed birds were for, like, near neighborhoods that was being sold. And in all this, next please, we found that the economy was actually quite vast. We were calculating maybe about 100,000, 140,000 birds being killed in a season. So that's one season. And so the economy was like, for 4 birds, you would get 100 rupees. So it was quite a big economy that was going on over there. And that was one of the challenges that we face in the community conservation aspect. Next. Next, please. Yeah. So one of the things that we had to do was awareness. And the awareness was through children like this that you see. We had many eco clubs. Next. Where we brought in, the importance of birds in ecology, and especially of these raptors, where we spoke about the importance of these raptors connecting the people of this area to people in South Africa and with countries wherever they go. And whereas like farmers just like themselves would be waiting for these raptors, because these raptors arrive when the farmers have just readied their fields, they've cleaned their fields, they've plowed their fields, they've turned their land, and just at that time the rains come, and exactly at that time the termites also emerge, and that's when the birds come and they leave, and then the farmers are ready to use the land for their farming. Next. So we would see these kind of birds, and through this conservation education, community education program, we began to see birds being left alone in these numbers. Next. So we also had the support. It is very important in conservation to get the support of authorities, involve if you can at every level. Do try at every level to get in the involvement or to bring it to the notice of higher ups. And here was the chief minister of the state who came to meet the young Eco Club members. Next. Yeah, so this is one of the sessions of the Eco Clubs. They composed a beautiful song, which I'm sorry I have not put it here in this audio presentation. Next. And this is one of my favorite pictures, actually, because you see the fishermen now coexisting with the falcons flying around him, where earlier, just a year before that, perhaps, they would be trapping these birds. Next. And this all came about. The first news, of course, flashed on Conservation India, where my late friend Ramki Srinivasan and Shashank Dalvi, who is one of India's greatest birders today, and Roko Hebi, who is from another part of Nagaland, all four of us actually spearheaded this conservation movement. Thank you. Thank you for the slides. So so the lessons that we learned on this campaign was that communities often do what they do also because they also are not connected with what is happening in the larger, what is happening in the world outside, and also not knowing what is the role of many of the species that are around them. So we often believe that often there is this, contrary to this very popular belief that tribal communities have great knowledge, tribal communities, great indigenous ecological knowledge about their habitat. Contrary to all this, it's not so. These knowledge, this understanding is also breaking down to pass it down to generations. And so it's really important for communicating conservation awareness, bringing the young people to be engaged in science, technology, which we use for wildlife sciences, to make communities aware of the power that they have over their resources and the importance of the roles, the decisions that they take, which will impact the very land that they are living off from. And, conservation also starts not just with the species, it starts with the habitat. Everything begins with the habitat. Everything begins with plants, conservation, vegetation, trees, forest cover. We can all plant trees. We cannot recreate the ecosystem. And that is something, if you don't even go back with anything, please do go back with this fact that we cannot recreate the ecosystem. So therefore, what we have, we can judiciously use. We can. We have the tools, the kit, the science. We can judiciously use all of these to use our natural resources judiciously, collectively. And when you go into an area to work on conservation. The people who are there matter the most. What they think of it, the co-designing of conservation with them is prime for the success. Forest department cannot do it. They just cannot do it. They can, I mean, look at Kaziranga. You have the toughest laws there. Shoot at sight. It is shoot at sight. If you're caught in the park, if you've dropped your sandal and you're going to look for your sandal or your bag or anything over there, and the forest guard catches you, no questions asked. It's shoot at sight. But even then, the use of the habitat around the Kaziranga Park, which is used by tea companies, which is used by resorts, all of these also are very important to the health of that habitat. So therefore, even in your villages, in your areas, wherever you have people living and there is forest area, the importance is to get the participation and the cooperation of people and to co-design any action that you're going to take. And yes, there will be some very difficult decisions that you may have to take, but when it is collectively made, it is possible. And the conservation of the Amur falcon, in a way, showed us that we Nagas, who are known for hunting, we also, with the right tools, with the right sort of engagement, with the right information, with the right prompts, that conservation can be a way for us also to protect what is in the land, what is over the land, and what will come in the future. So this is something that I really wanted to share with you, that the importance of our communities wherever, all national parks, all reserves, all sanctuaries. Yes, the law is there for us to fall back on, but communities awareness, this is something, and that we remember that we are all a part of nature and that we are not apart from it. And this is a kind of philosophy that you will gradually, I'm sure, grow up with. Not to be fanatic about anything, but it is a very human, natural feeling that we all should and must develop to have affinity with land and nature. Because without nature, no, often everybody, sometimes we tend to put nature at the center of everything and then human beings come last. No, human beings are very important for nature. Human beings are stewards of nature. And so without nature, human beings cannot survive. But even without humans, nature also will not survive. I believe in that. And so I would like to encourage all of you to look at that aspect and to know that once you're able to say, like the communities in this particular village, when we emotionally connected them and made them understand that these birds travel so far. They had no idea. They had no idea about the biohistory, the geography of these birds. And so you make that emotional connect, and that to tell them that these birds are going to areas where farmers just like themselves are also waiting for these birds to clean the fields of insects and of other termites and other insects in the ground, so that they can use the land. And so that was one connect. Also, the law was very important, in the sense that many of them said that when we asked them, we said, this is 2012, and we know that for a fact that in 2010, the district deputy magistrate, we call them deputy commissioners here, had issued a warning that no villagers are to trap these birds or kill these birds. How is it that in 2012, you all are still mass trapping these birds? So, the answer was, well, the order came in 2010, but it didn't come again in 2011, nor has it come in 2012. So there will be all these, wonderful excuses. But I think it's important also for administrators also to keep issuing these orders, to make people, to remind them, so that there is no gap, that we don't leave any gaps in our communication. And it's not just, I don't think we cannot guard all the areas, but we can definitely reach people, we can reach students, we can reach communities with the importance of conservation. And right now, I think a country would be really far better off if we knew how to protect whatever is remaining in this bright and big and beautiful land. Thank you.
So I have a small question for you, Banu. Uh, should I put the question to you?
Yes, yes.
So you explained about the farmers getting great benefits out of the Amur falcon migration, because just about the time when they till their soil and the rains arrive and the termites come out, that's when the Amur falcons also arrive. So there is a great economic side also to bird conservation. That the whole system, the balance of the ecosystem depends upon the intricate, the very delicate movement that we often do not notice what is happening. So is there how do we bring about that awareness among the people? Is there a documentation which is required, or is it there has to be a campaign to bring it about, so that the masses, the local people who can damage and who can also protect, as in your case you have seen in Nagaland, they are made aware of this?
Documentation is extremely important, but documentation without the involvement of the community is meaningless.
Right.
So, because they have to see their participation in this. So, in this process, yeah, the one thing that really worried us was like the economy was so much around the harvesting of the birds. It was almost like 30 to 35 lakhs a season. So, which conservation program will be able to replace that? None. There is no sponsor. There is nobody who is going to replace that kind of economy. So, and we were not going in with we were just a group of people who had got together wanting to do something. So we decided very in the beginning that no, what we are seeing here is a great gap in education, in awareness. And the hunters are all adults. To change the mindset of the adults, we are going to need the law and the presence of the law, lawmakers, lawkeepers, like the forest department patrolling, which they did. They really stepped up their patrolling in these areas. But we also needed to do something to respond to the community, to that gap in that conservation. So normally conservation organizations will go in with, we will do this for you, we will do that for you, we can do this, we can do that. We said, well, we see that, your children are going to need this understanding. So we would like to set up eco clubs, and that's the best we can do. So would you like allow us to have this eco club? Because just preaching to them is not going to work. So they agreed for us to have eco clubs. And initially there was a lot of focus from all NGOs, from all quarters, from all individuals, initially in the hype of the conservation success, the turnaround. But what was really significant was our sponsors, whether it was PNHS or WCT or RRCF, all these organizations, WCS included, who stayed behind us and allowed us to be present in that community for 10 years. We maintained our eco club for 10 years. Maybe we through our eco clubs, more than 300 children have gone through the eco club uh, uh, syllabus, small little syllabus that we built around conservation, and also specifically around the Amur falcon. So the presence of of you, the person who is going to initiate the conservation, is very important for communities, for them to trust that what is being done with them is good for them in the long run. The trust building is very, very important for communities to start thinking about what they are doing. And I strongly believe that in this particular area, where we are no longer actively present, but because we were given the opportunity to be in that landscape with the support of so many other NGOs, we have been able to leave that place with the strong knowledge that now the community will conserve and preserve the Amur falcon passaging through their land.
Absolutely. Children, if you have any questions to ask, you are welcome. A bit hesitant our children are, but they are all from Jabalpur, and the good thing is that we get a cousin of the Amur falcon here.
Oh, lovely.
We get the peregrine falcon, which comes in winter.
Oh, that's the fastest falcon. Yeah.
Fastest falcon. Fastest bird in the world, perhaps.
Yes, fastest.
So Jabalpur is blessed with a lot of nature.
Lovely, I'm sure. It must be a beautiful place.
Mr. Flora is here. He's one of the best in business here in terms of birds. So
Wow.
Flora.
Hello. I would like to ask one question.
Yes, sir.
Uh, this all happened during 2012, 14, and
Yes.
all that. So after that, there was a lot of awareness in a country about the place and about Amur falcons, and maybe throughout the world also. Now, birding has picked up in a very big way, and there are many groups which go to northeast areas for bird watching, and seeing those rare species there, which are endemic to that area. So, has this episode helped in in a way, like to compensate for the loss of uh, uh, that temporary income which people used to have by selling these birds? Now, with the coming of the birding trips, has that compensated in some way?
Yeah. So this is a hard question to respond to because, yes, the communities were definitely um, felt like felt they had been kind of like betrayed when we first exposed this phenomenon because they felt ashamed that it was in such a large scale. But the turnaround also placed them right in the center, as you say, of the bird group or birding group or international news, as it were, about this the response of the community to stand up to their commitment. In terms of monetary gains, there is a kind of a mixed response here because though the community did receive um, investments in terms of the improvement of their roads and some construction towards hospitality, um, small resorts, some small hotels, all of that. But there is also a rather gloomy side to this entire picture, where I think this comes when politics gets in the way and uh, people in authority who don't see the ground situation want to act fast, want to, as it were, make hay while the sun shines. And in their haste, what they did was destroy the most beautiful roosting area of the falcons because they wanted to build the resort. And so in 2018, this happened. And whereas for us, we were in conversation with the communities that, you've got to give people of the world at least 5 to 7 years to start coming to your territory, because it takes that much time for people to get to know about it, get to know how to get there, make the budget, come and see the place. And so that happened, but amazingly, the birds still came to that area, and they didn't come exactly to that spot, but they moved higher up to the mouth of the reservoir, of the river, the Doyang Reservoir. And unfortunately, whereas domestic, internal, like within Nagaland, there are visits that are taking place, and the community has been making a living off there out of these visits, but it is not in comparison to what they would have got. It's certainly, definitely not 30 to 35 lakhs that season. But those who have been able to establish their hotels and resorts, uh, because that reservoir itself is so beautiful, and there is fishing that is going on there, and boating also sometimes takes place over there. There is some kind of activity, but I can't say, like, if I feel sure that if that roosting area had been left as it were, it would be a very different story. But when, you know it's the downside of of too much too soon, and that is what happened over there. And uh, the control, I mean, the authorities, who they will know who they are, and what they have done. And but to the credit of the communities there, they have kept their word, and they have protected the species that comes there annually. So we are still hoping for better roads, for better access to the new area where the birds are there, which is just 1 kilometer upstream. And it's a little difficult to get there because the road is challenging, but you can easily get there by boat from the original roosting area. So yes, during the season, uh, I can confidently say that uh, birds are still arriving, and also the population, the dispersion of the dispersal of birds has also increased, because they are going also to newer areas around Nagaland itself. So while the birds of the Amur falcon still visit the Doyang Reservoir, they are no longer seen in that large number that we saw from 2012 to 2017.
Can we just contemplate having a kind of a festival, as most of the states have started celebrating, as it is the apricot festival in Leh and
Yeah,
other places, that
we should.
the
We
Amur
should.
Falcon festival can be,
We
uh,
should.
and when you have an event, I guess it attracts a lot of tourists. So, but you'll have to keep their accommodations away from the habitat. That's very
Yes.
important, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. We should plan around that. It's uh, frankly, I have now, moved on to another area, so which is again equally challenging with conservation of communities on the fringes of a national park. So yes, but I think this is an idea that we can moot with the communities. There was an Amur Falcon festival, but it was not a festival to my mind. It was meant to be a conservation festival, but there were many things that went wrong with it, which were pointed out. And the next year, they couldn't continue with it. Yeah, because they had, like, bike riders coming into the roosting area. They had busloads of people coming in. There was loud music on the other end. There was overnight fishing, all this, So we said, I think a festival, a conservation festival, this is not the nature of a conservation festival. I think it best be done much before the arrival of the birds or post the departure of the birds. So yeah. So we have a long way to go, but I'm really proud of the communities, and they've done themselves proud actually by keeping their word.
That's right.
That area is already famous as the land of Amur
Yes, sir.
falcon,
Yes.
and all over India. And when this migration happens, it is only at that particular place near that dam reservoir that all those birds congregate. And I think something local economy can be built on that, like
Yeah, it
Anshul
should.
said,
It
a
should.
festival.
Well, we can think about this and see how we can get this going. First, probably maybe this year, I could make a visit there and see what is the situation. Although, of course, like the birds, as I said, are spreading across wherever they can find food, right? They have to get their food. And so, if the population increases, also, the studies are going on now about WII, in fact, has done or is doing. I have not yet seen the report, but about the food for the Amur falcons, the availability of the food for the increasing population of bees that would be arriving. So there is also another area which is very we've seen roosting taking place not far, like I'm in Dimapur town. It's not far from here that I've seen two roosting sites of the Amur falcons, but they only roost here, but the foraging is done elsewhere. They fly in only in the evenings, and it's quite a sight to see even here. But for the Amur falcons in the Doyang Reservoir, they do their foraging in and around that area, and also they were roosting there. And also there are other places in Nagaland where the Amur falcons are present, which is in a biodiversity community biodiversity area, which is in a village called Yongyumchen, which is a little far to get to, but an equally beautiful place, and where the birds are very safe because that is a large area, 14 square kilometer area, I believe, which is protected by communities on both sides, communities living on both sides of the roosting area. So
Thank you very much, ma'am, for this wonderful session. Once again, I ask if any student have any question, you can please ask. Otherwise, I will seek permission of ma'am to close this session.
yeah,
I think
I just
Please.
I'm sometimes I'm asked like, what is it that keeps me focused or keeps me and my team like focused to do conservation work? And I often take inspiration from different readings and writings, and also spiritually, because I find that, I hope the young people are still here, some of you,
They are there. They are all.
like we do conservation today, or environment conservation, restoration of ecology, all that. Human beings, if you look back, we've tried to do everything. We have used policies, we have used activism, we've used technology, we've used science, but I think it's time that we start using spirituality also to connect to nature. And being a student of wildlife sciences or studying science or environmental sciences, you don't have to become an agnostic. I would think quite the opposite, that you should be more in awe of the creator who has made all these wonderful things, which your mind also cannot grasp, which you may never ever be able to discover all the wonderful things that are there on this planet. So I often take inspiration from this little quote from the Bible, and I'll just read a little, not the whole passage. It's Psalms 8, verses 3 to 9. So it says, when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them, of me? Human beings that you care for them. You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet, all flocks and herds, and the animals of the wild, the birds in the sky, and the fish in the sea, all that swim the paths of the seas. Lord, O Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Thank you.
Very good. You will be happy to know that among the 19 committees, we have one committee which is focused on identification and revival of environmental values. So
Great. Wonderful.
we'll request you to have a session with them and to let them know the environmental values.
Anshuman, you're too kind.
No, it is such a pleasure to and such an honor to hear from you.
No, not at all, please. But the honor was all mine. I hope I was rambling a little bit, but I hope little message got through. Yeah.
I did certainly.
Thank you.
The students would have some questions. We'll send them
Oh, yeah.
across in case if they text us any message, we'll send them across and request you to answer in text later on.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Aditya, you may.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you,
This
Aditya, for
wonderful
hosting the meeting.
session. And so, may I seek your permission to close the session?
Yes, madam.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.